welcome back to Teaching Them. I'm Michael Keynes, and I have a lesson for you today. It's called Knock Knock, the Rooms of Your Heart. And so you can see I built a really big heart to demonstrate this, but I have this lesson in 3 different versions. One is just as a slideshow, and the slideshow will do this part for you. It'll animate it. I also have a printout version where you can print this out. You print the top part and then there's a back sheet to it. And then as you knock on the doors of the heart, then you'll just lift them up and reveal that Jesus is inside. And then you can peel back other ones. And Jesus is there too, and you can pull back that one and Jesus is there. So that's 3 different ways to do it. Slideshow, print version, or you can, if you're feeling adventurous, you can build your own heart. So let me run the lesson and then all of this will make a little more sense. Hey kids, we're going to talk today about your spiritual heart. Now, your spiritual heart is different than your physical heart. Your physical heart is in here. It pumps the blood through your body, and that's a very important heart. But your spiritual heart may be even more important than that. Your spiritual heart is where everything that's most important to you goes. And we usually say that it's kind of right here, although it's really in your mind and in your spirit. So we say that all the most important stuff goes there. All the people that you love go there. All the things that you hope for go there. Your friends go there. But then also some dark and scary things go there. Your fears go into your heart, and your worries go into your heart, and even sometimes hatreds go into your heart. And so we have to be careful what we allow to be in our heart. Before you became a Christian, people may have said to you, invite Jesus into your heart. And you may have thought that's really strange. You can't invite him into your physical heart, not enough room in there, but you can invite him into your spiritual heart. And what we mean by that is we mean make Jesus your Lord, your Savior, put all your trust in him. And so there's a verse in the Bible that I might get a volunteer to read this. There's a verse in the Bible. It's from Revelation 3:20. And in Revelation 3:20, it says, behold, this is Jesus talking. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears me and comes and opens the door to me, then I'll come in and eat with him, or have dinner with him, or have supper with him. It depends on the translation. And so when he says that, you might think that's a little strange. Jesus is going to come have dinner with me. But what that meant to the Hebrew culture where this originally was written is if you went in to eat with someone, you had a relationship with them. You had fellowship with them. It was a bond. And eating with them was a way to say, you're accepted. You're in my group. And so Jesus is saying, I'll come in and eat with you, and you'll eat with me, and we'll have a relationship together. He says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. So I want to use this heart to kind of describe what happens in our spiritual heart as we're growing closer to God. And I think the first thing, I have a little Jesus here. And so Jesus is going to come, and the first door that he's interested in is worship. He's going to knock on the worship door. And the reason why he's going to knock on that is because everybody worships something. As human beings, we were designed to worship. Now, you can tell this if you ever watch people who are fanatics, fans, big fans, who go to a sports event and they paint their chest and they paint their face and they act all crazy and they buy all kinds of merchandise. You know, they're worshiping that game to a certain extent. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm only saying it's wrong if it's the only thing that you're worshiping, or if it's the most important thing that you're worshiping. As other people, they worship success. Like that is their whole life is built around being successful. Other people want to be famous and they make their whole life about being famous. Other people, they want money and they make their whole life about money. And so we're designed to worship something, but what are you going to put in that place in your heart? What are you going to worship? Well, Jesus says, I want to be the one that you worship. So I'm knocking at the door. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And when you give your life to Jesus, when you invite Jesus into your heart, it's basically saying, Jesus, you're the one I want to worship. So we're going to take the worship door off of this part of your heart. All right. And then Jesus is going to come in there And he's going to make that his home. He's going to say, I'm coming to live here. You open the door, I come in, I have fellowship with you. So Jesus, after he moves in here, he says, this is awesome. I love this. He said, will you trust me to let me into that other door over there, the Hope's door? And he'll go and he'll knock. Now, maybe it's the Hope's door, maybe it's one of the other doors. But he says, I'm really interested in finding out about the rest of the rooms of your heart. Can I come in there? And you'll say, you know, Jesus, once you came into the worship room in my heart and I gave my life to you, things really started to get better for me. Yes, of course, Jesus, welcome into the hopes area. I want to tell you about all my biggest hopes in life. I want to tell you about all the things that I love about living and that I'm excited for and that I want you to help me with. And he says, that's fantastic. And he moves into that space. But after a while, Jesus says, you know, I'm also kind of interested in this friends box over here. Can I have a look at that? And he'll come and he'll knock. And you may say, ooh, Jesus, I don't know. I've got a couple of friends. I don't think you'd enjoy meeting them. And Jesus says, of course, would love to meet them. I love everybody. I want to meet your friends. And you say, but I'm a little embarrassed, Jesus, because they act in ways that I think you don't want me to act, and they encourage me to do things. And sometimes when I come away from them, I don't feel so good about myself. And Jesus says, yes, exactly. That is wonderful. I want to be part of that place in your heart. And so once you trust Jesus enough, you go, okay, Jesus, come on in. And so you take away the door on that part of your heart. Jesus moves in, and you know what? He doesn't surprise you in some ways because he gets in there and he says, you know, I don't know if this person's the best friend for you. They seem to be pulling you down and leading you into sin and doing things that are not good for you. And I want something better for you. Maybe this friend is not a good friend for you. And you start to agree with Jesus and you're like, you know what, Jesus, I need to make changes there. And so you cut off that relationship. But Jesus is great. He knows you need friends. And so he goes out and he finds somebody else. And he's like, hey, look at that person over there. I think they make a great friend. Why don't you go talk to him? And you muster up the courage and you go talk to him. Pretty soon you're like, oh, the light is on in all these places in my heart. I'm so excited. And so Jesus is going to keep coming along. And he may say, you know, I really would like to talk to you about some of your family relationships. Will you allow me into that space? Jesus, I got a grudge against my brother or my sister. I'm kind of mad at them. If I'm honest, I kind of like being mad at them. It feels kind of good inside to be mad at them sometimes. I kind of enjoy that. I don't know if I want to let you in. But Jesus will just keep knocking. And when you finally come to the point where you're like, Jesus, I trust you. Please come into my family relationships. Jesus will go in there and he'll turn on the light there and he'll start to improve those family relationships. And he'll lead you to forgive your brother or your sister. And he'll make things better. And you're like, Jesus, wow, this is great. I can trust you with so much. And he said, yeah, I'm glad that you think so. I would really love it if you would invite me into your fears. Knock, knock, knock. And you're like, oh, Jesus, that door is locked. There's a padlock on that door. I cannot open it up. It makes me feel terrible. It feels uncontrollable when I even think about that particular part of my heart. And Jesus says, but I want to come in. I want to help you. See what I did with these other places? Don't you want me to come in and do the same thing in those places too? You're like, yeah, I know, Jesus, but it's so scary. I don't know if I can. You say, let's do it together. And you're like, okay, Jesus, if you'll do it with me, you've been so trustworthy so far. I'm going to give you that part of my heart. I'm going to let you in. You decide to let Jesus into the scary part. And what's interesting is it's not as scary as it seemed. You see, part of the reason why it's scary is because you have an enemy, and your enemy is the devil. And the devil wants you to keep this door closed off, to Jesus. He knows that Jesus will bring healing. He knows that Jesus will bring peace. He knows that Jesus will bring hope into those fears. And the Bible says that we're not given the spirit of fear, but we're given the spirit of being sons and daughters of the Lord. And so we can have courage because we have the all-powerful God behind us. He says, let me into that place and I'll help you with those fears. And you're like, wow, that's fantastic. Well, Jesus is going to want to do this throughout our life. He's going to say, hey, when you get older, I really want you to talk to me about your money and how you're spending. And if you're brave, you'll give that to him. And he says, oh, I want to talk to you about how you spend your time. And you're like, all right, Jesus, I trust you with everything. I'm going to trust you with how I use my time. Maybe I'm not going to play as many video games as I did. He says, I got a couple of habits I'd like to talk to you about. Will you invite me in there? And you say, yep. Jesus, I will invite you into my habits. Please come in. He's going to say, this one I don't think is good for you. This would be a great habit to start to grow closer to me. He says, I want you invite me into your choices. Okay, Jesus, I'll invite you into my choices. And he'll keep doing that. He'll talk to you about what you love. Maybe it's that boy or girl that you have a crush on. He'll talk to you about your talents. Are you just going to use your talents for your own sake so that other people will think, wow, you're impressive? Or are you going to use your talents for God's sake to help build his kingdom? He's going to talk to you about your purpose in life. What is it you were designed for? Why are you here? God has a purpose for you and a plan. He's going to talk to you about your pains. There's some things in your life that are probably very hurtful and you don't want to open it up because you think you'll just explode if you talk about those things. And you may need to get another person to come help you, a professional or a parent or someone who is kind and understands and trustworthy to help you with these pains. But when you have a pain, you really need, Jesus wants to get in there and he'll show you, I was there when that happened. I was in the room. I was at that place and my heart hurt too. And I was crying for you. And you may say, well, Jesus, why didn't you prevent it from happening? And that's a very complicated question. But it has a lot to do with Jesus allows other people, he allows all of us to have our choices in life. And he allows other people to choose to do the wrong thing, even when it hurts people. But know that he was with you and he's providing protection for you during that time, even though a terrible thing happened, and that he can heal that space for you. I got one more over here. These are hates. Jesus does not want us to have a part of our heart that is dedicated to hates. And he's going to be knocking on that all the time, saying, why don't you let me in? Please let me in. Yeah, you hate so much for your family member or your friend or maybe somebody who did something very terrible to you. He wants to be let in there because he knows this is a place where the enemy can really destroy your life. If you can't forgive whoever's behind this door, then that will destroy your life. And Jesus says, I want you to let me in. Allow me to take care of making sure that justice is done in that situation. But you forgive because it's too heavy for you to hold. And so hopefully at some point you get the courage to let Jesus into the hates and you're able to forgive. And when you do that, then Jesus has your whole heart, right? And each of us is probably going to open different doors at different times and give him our heart. And it may take our whole life to give him our whole heart. But Jesus' invitation is, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If he answers, if she answers, then I'll come in and we'll have a relationship, a strong relationship together. And the more places you allow Jesus in, the stronger your relationship gets. So I encourage you, please, 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 if you hear that knock, if you can hear that knock, open the door. Let Jesus in. He really wants to be in your whole heart. All right, so that's the lesson. So this is a concrete way to talk about a very abstract thing, and that is that each of us tends to have places in our heart that we wall stuff off, that we push stuff down, that we lock stuff away. And Jesus is always interested in every part of our heart. Now, I used to sing a song years and years ago. It was, Jesus is a gentleman. He never forces his way in. He knocks. He waits for us to open the door. He doesn't ever force his way in. He's inviting all of us to give our hearts fully to him, because he is trustworthy and good, and he's gentle and he's kind, and he can heal, and he can strengthen, and he can empower. And that's what I'm hoping the kids will get in their minds through this visual picture. I hope you use this lesson. If you want to print it out, if you want to print the slides or the printout version, or if you want the instructions for how to build this giant thing, then please go to my website at www.teachingthem.org and look for the Knock Knock Rooms of Your Heart lesson. God bless you. Have a great one. Talk to you next time.